Okay, Mr. Byron Scott, how you doing today?
I'm blessed. I can't complain. Life is good.
I love it. I love it. Blessed, unlike the rest, right? So I didn't know that you were born in Ogden, Utah.
Yeah. I was born in Ogden, Utah. My family kind of migrated from Texas, to Utah for whatever reason. And my dad met my mom and had me, and then he went on to play basketball, at Weaver Junior College, not Weaver State, university.
Junior college
It was a
back
junior
then?
college back then in the 50s and 60s. And then he went from there to Utah State, where he was a two-time All-American, and got hurt. Wasn't able to fulfill his dream of being in the NBA. And him and my mother never got married. They kind of just drifted apart. And my mom moved to L.A. Met my stepdad, who was my dad, who raised me. And so I would go to Utah every summer, just to visit my dad and my grandmother and family members. But yeah, born in Ogden, Utah.
That's wild. I didn't know that. Do you still have family in Ogden?
Still do. Still have family, cousins, and nieces and nephews, and so yeah, I still don't visit Ogden as much, but I still talk to my relatives out
And
there.
in fact, my dad lives in Pleasant View, which is right there in Ogden.
Yeah.
It's like North Ogden area.
Yeah.
That's cool. How old were you when you left Utah?
10 years old, something like that.
10 years
10,
old.
11 years old. Yeah. My dad was. This is a crazy story that he told me, is that he told my mom, who was in California at the time, and I was staying with my grandmother, and I was 8, 9, 10 years old. And he told my mom to get me to California. He said the kid can play basketball, and he won't have any competition here. You need to take him somewhere where he's going to have a lot of competition. And so my mom sent for me. I moved to L.A., and I've been in L.A. ever since.
And it was sheerly for
For basketball purposes. As when he told the story, it was sheerly basketball purposes, nothing else. He just felt that I had, he tells me the story when I was born, that he looked at me and he said, I got one, And so, 8, 9, 10 years old, I was playing little ball, at that time in the little league there. But he saw something in me where he told her to get me to California.
He knew it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How old were you when you were like, I have a shot? Like when you felt like, man, this is my thing.
12.
12?
Yeah.
You knew at age 12 that
Yeah,
this was
you know
it?
what? It's funny. I came home one day at age 12. I came home with my first trophy, and my mom and dad were coming out, and they had their date nights every Friday night, where they would go to a movie and dinner and stuff. And I was the oldest of 4, But even at 12 years old, I was responsible enough to take care of my brother and my 2 sisters. But I came running up the stairs or the steps, and my dad and mom was coming out, and I had this trophy, and my mom was like, "Oh my God, you won a trophy?" I was like, "Yep, got me a trophy, Mom." And she was like, "Oh, that's so great. My baby got him a trophy," my first trophy. And my dad said, "So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna be in life?" I said, "I'm gonna be an NBA basketball player." And he, looked at me and he was like, "So what if you don't make it?" I said, "I'll be a Major League Baseball player." So sports was, obviously
Sports
something
was
that I
it.
thought about, and I was, growing up very good in pretty much all 3 sports. Just played whatever season was happening. I played, all my buddies played, but basketball, when I got to about the junior year in high school, was the one I knew I had a really good shot at.
So basketball number 1, what would have been your number 2? Was it baseball?
Baseball, yeah.
And number 3?
Football.
Football.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you come to LA. What was that move like? Like you're 10, 12 years old. What's the move like? How were you feeling? How did you acclimate? Was it easy?
The move was, it wasn't very difficult. I think at 10 years old, 11, 12, you make friends pretty easily.
Sure.
When we first moved to Los Angeles, we moved to South Central. I stayed on 75th and Figueroa. So I stayed in, gang-infested,
Sure.
area. And my first friend lived right across the street, and we just became really good friends, and then, migrated to another couple of guys. And next thing you know, we had 6 of us, and we were like a gang. We went everywhere together. But yeah, that was kind of my introduction to South Central. Coming from Utah, I didn't see, the type of things that I probably wouldn't have never saw in Utah. I saw 2 people murdered in front of me, which was very, traumatic as a youngster, to be able to see that, and just people beating up each other and stuff like that I just never grew up seeing. So I was introduced to Los Angeles at a relatively young age on how crazy and how tough the streets could be.
What did that do something for you? Like, for some folks, it's like, I'm going to get into that life. I'm just going to roll with this crowd. And for some, it's like, I'm getting completely far away from this thing.
Yeah, I was that.
You were never tempted to get into that arena?
No. I was so into sports that I knew that was my way out. So I never thought for one second that I would be involved in gangs and that type of violent world because I knew that basketball, football, baseball was the way that I can get out of there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Tell me about your path to the NBA. College?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that, because I don't have a lot of notes on.
Yeah, Arizona State University.
Days. Okay, I see.
And got recruited by pretty much everybody. But even in the recruiting stage, the early part of it, I told most people, I said, I'm not going back east. That's too cold. I'm not doing that. It's either the Midwest or the West, and I really prefer the West. So most of the teams or most of the universities that recruited me were West Coast. My final decisions, we came down to UCLA, UNLV, and Arizona State. And I just loved Coach Newman, who was the guy that was recruiting me out of Arizona State. God bless him and rest his soul. And I just had a really good feeling about him, and my mother loved him. She thought he was just great, and he always preached education. That was the biggest thing that he preached, when he would come visit us.
So he recruited your mom?
Yeah, he recruited. He was smart. He get mom on my side. I probably got a really good chance of getting this kid. But my mom never told me how much she liked him and how much she wanted me to go to Arizona State until I made my decision, because her and my dad were both the same way. I was like, where do you guys think I should go? They was like, that's up to you. Wherever you want to go, wherever you feel more comfortable, wherever you feel you can get, a great education and the best chance of making it to your dreams, that's where you should go. So when I picked Arizona State, my dad wanted me to go to UCLA, and my mom wanted me to go to Arizona State.
There you go. And then when you got drafted in '83?
Yeah.
Okay. How many years of college ball?
Played 3 years of college ball. So I redshirted 1 year, so I was there for 4 years, but I only played 3. So I went hardship. I went after my junior year. I was drafted by the San Diego Clippers at the time.
Yeah.
I was the 4th player picked, first card chosen. And we couldn't figure out how to get a contract together because the Clippers were cheap and they didn't want to pay me. And I was just asking, less than what the 3rd guy got in the draft and more than what the 5th guy got. And they were offering me what the 12th guy got, so we never could come to an agreement. And one day I got the best call that I ever had in my life. Jerry West called me one day and said, son, we're trying to make a trade for you. We've been trying to do this for 2 weeks. If it don't happen today by 3 o'clock, it's not going to happen. It's like 9 in the morning. And so at about 3:30, he called me back and he said, congratulations, you're now Los Angeles Lakers. And I almost, what it on myself.
So did you play for the Clippers?
I didn't put a uniform on.
You didn't put a uniform on. Straight to the Lakers.
Straight to the Lakers. We could, I was the Clippers' property after the draft, and so they had the rights to me.
So they made some money.
But I never put on a uniform. I never went to media day or any of that stuff. When they traded me, it was 2 weeks before the regular season was about to start. When I got traded to the Lakers. So that introduction to the Lakers was, fast and furious. It was get here, get signed, get on the court, let's go. And I mean, it was that quick.
Okay, so this is 1983. Who's on the Lakers?
Magic Johnson.
Okay.
James Worthy. It was his second year. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Jamal Wilkes, Michael Cooper, Kirk Rampus, Mitch Kupchak. Let me keep going. Let me see who else. Bob McAdoo, who was my favorite. I wore number 11 from elementary till the pros because of Bob McAdoo. I was a big Bob McAdoo fan. So that was pretty much, the team right there. So, walking in that locker room, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable.
How many years had Magic been in the league by then?
4 or 5, something like that. Yeah, I think 5. I think that was his 5th year, was my rookie year.
Okay, and then Worthy
it was his second year.
And he's the same class as Jordan, right?
No, he's a year ahead of Jordan.
He's a year ahead.
Yeah.
So you're the same class as Jordan then?
Matter of fact, no. Okay, so I'm a year ahead of Jordan, and James is 2 years ahead.
2 years.
Yes.
Okay, because didn't they play together?
They played at North Carolina. When James was a junior, MJ hit the shot to win the game as a freshman.
Yeah, they bypassed Worthy, went with Jordan.
Give it to the freshman. He makes the winning shot. James goes in the draft, gets to be the first pick. Michael played 2 more years, and then he goes.
Yeah, fantastic. And then you guys won 3 championships together?
Yeah.
Okay, the first championship, how was it? What did it feel like?
It was unbelievable. Being a rookie and being in the finals the first year anyway was unbelievable. But losing to Boston obviously was a heartache, because that was a team that we wanted to beat so bad, and they had always beaten the Lakers in a 7-game series. So no Laker team have ever beaten the Celtics until we did it in '85. So getting that monkey off of Jerry West's back, Will Chamberlain, Gail Goodrich, Happy Harrison, all those guys, before us. Was extremely gratifying, and to beat them in Boston was even that much better.
That's amazing. So that's the first one. Second one,
'87. We beat them again. So in my career, I was 2-1, against them, and beating them in the finals. And then the next year in '88, we played the Bad Boys, who finally were able to get over the hump and beat the Celtics, and then we beat them in another Game 7 that was a grueling series. So we were the first team to win back-to-back championships hadn't been done in like 20 years.
That's
so
crazy.
85, 87, 88.
85, 87, 88.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happened the next few years?
Well, '89, we go back to the finals. We really had designs on winning 3 in a row. We were rolling in the playoffs. I think we won like 13 straight playoff games. We get to Detroit. Pat Riley was extremely afraid, of Detroit's rebounding prowess. They were one of the better rebounding teams in the league. They had Spider-Man Sally, Bill Laimbeer, James Edwards, and Dennis Rodman, who was probably the best rebounder in the NBA. So he just kept going through these drills about how we got to block these guys out. And the night before the first game, we went through a rebounding drill. I pulled a hamstring. It was a partial tear of a hamstring. And then Game 1, Magic pulls his hamstring. So our backcourt is out for that series, and we lose 4 straight games after winning 13 straight. So we really felt that if we were healthy, that we would have probably won 3 in a row.
Yeah. And then coaching. When does coaching come into play?
Coaching came into play. Well, let me put it this way. Coaching started to come into play. I started thinking about coaching when I went to Indiana, and I played for Larry Brown. And Larry Brown was just a great coach, great communicator. And every day in practice, he would ask me questions on how we did things in L.A. How would you double down on the post? Where would you come from? How would you rotate?
What year is this?
Oh man, let me see. 10, 11. This is 94, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So he would ask all these questions. It might have been even 92, but he would ask all these questions on, and he called me By. Hey, By, how would you guys double down, and where would you come from? How would your rotations be? And I was always answering these questions. How would you play pick and rolls? And then as I'm explaining, he was, all right, let's do it that way. Let's see how this goes. And we would do it that way. And then one day he was like, I think you would be a great coach, And that's the first time I really started thinking about coaching, because I had heard earlier from Pat Riley when I was 26, but I didn't want to hear that at 26. I'm still in the prime of my life. I'm not thinking about life after basketball. I'm not thinking about life after basketball. So when Larry Brown told me that, I was 32 years old. It was my 10th year in the league. And yes, now I'm starting to think about life after basketball. So when he said that, it really started to put it in my mind to start thinking about it, because I had Pat Riley say it, I got Larry Brown saying it. We got 2 Hall of Fame coaches saying it, so they see something in me that I don't see. So I started keeping a journal, and the next 3 or 4 years, I said, if I get an opportunity, I'm going to take advantage of it.
What were you writing in your journal?
Things I would do and things I wouldn't do. I mean, things I would do as far as, offensively, what I would like to run, defensively, what I would like to do. And all those scenarios that I talked about that Larry would ask me, I had all those in my journal. If I would red the pick and rolls, which means trap. If I would blue it, which means push it down to the sideline. If I would hard show, all those scenarios I kind of had in my journal. And then things I wouldn't do is, if a player made a mistake, don't take him out right after he makes a mistake. Wait till he does something well, then take him out and talk to him about the mistake that he made. Because at least you take him out on a positive note, and not something that he feels he did negatively, where he's already thinking about it. So I always wanted to do that. And so I was just trying to keep that journal, and like I said, everything that I would kind of see that year, I would kind of write down or jot down. And I went back to even Pat Riley days. You know, I would write a bunch of stuff down that I remember him saying and remember him doing. And I just wanted to make sure that I was ready when the opportunity came.
That's awesome. So going back to, I want to keep going on coaching, but let's go back to the Lakers if you can. And it's a tough question, but maybe without picking favorites, who was your favorite teammate?
I can't pick one. I mean, because Magic and Coop were my guys. You know, we were. You know, everybody called us the Three Musketeers.
Is Coop kind of like an unsung hero? Would you say?
Like, without a doubt.
Super underrated.
Well,
he was right?
He's not underrated anymore. He's been elected to the Hall of Fame. Sure. He's finally getting his due.
Yeah, you just
but
don't.
He was one of those guys. He was like the glue to the team. And me and him and Magic, you know, every road trip we went to dinner together. We went to movies together. When we were here in LA, we went out to, you know, dinner with our wives together and things like that. So we were like the Three Musketeers, you know. So, you know, I can't pick between those two because they were so
we're picking the two.
We're picking both of them because that was my boys.
Cool. How was it with just playing with Kareem? The legend.
It was great. You know, I mean, I got the honor of playing with him for 6 years. When I first got there, you know, after my second year, they said he was going to retire. You know, at least he had, you know, plans to retire. But he ended up playing 4 more years. So, you know, I got the pleasure and privilege of being with him for 6 years. I sat next to him in the locker room for 6 years. He would come over to my house and we would ride to the airport together. You know, so I had an unbelievable relationship with Cap, you know, and just somebody who I truly admired. He was one of the smartest men I've ever seen. You know, just very intellectual and very, you know, understanding of the game of basketball and life in general. I mean, just very, very intelligent man.
Beautiful. And then toughest opponent during your playing years?
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan?
Yeah, by far. You know, I mean, he was just he was one of those guys that it wasn't too many guys in the league. Matter of fact, he was the only one that I was sorry. We're not going to piss him off tonight. Anybody else, I didn't care. But if you piss him off, he'll get 50. So I would be nice to him, you know. So when he make a shot, it's a good shot, Mike. You know, it's real, you know. So that was my way of just trying to you know, keep him from trying to go off every now and then. But I had a tremendous amount of respect for him because he just had no weaknesses. The guy was just a killer on the basketball court.
Yeah. And then talk to me about the bad boys. Were they as obnoxious as we see on the different shows?
They were pretty bad.
Yeah.
You know, Coop said he didn't call them the bad boys. He called them the bad kids, you know. So I don't know if that, you know, fits. But, you know, they were just a tough, physical, you know, dirty, you know, grindy, just get in your face, beat you up type team. And if you would, you know, allow them to do that, then they basically took your will, you know. And that's the one thing we wouldn't allow, you know. So it made for great TV. Different styles, you know, we were up and down the court, you know, running up and down the court, and they wanted to grind it out and beat you up and slow the game down. But they had great players. You know, Isaiah Thomas was one of the best point guards in the game. You know, Joe Dumars is one of the best guards in the game. And then, you know, their role players were just a lot like ours. You know, we all just did our jobs, you know, so you had to give them a lot of credit for being successful as they were.
Beautiful. Favorite coach?
Oh, man, that's a tough one, too, because, again, like I just said, I had 2 of the best, Pat Riley and Larry Brown. You know, I love them both. I had, obviously, a lot more success with Coach Riley, but Larry was my guy as well. I loved him because he was such a motivator, technician when it came to the game, and Rouse was, too, and Rouse was extremely disciplined when it came to the game. He held everybody accountable, you know, and so did Larry. So, again, that's one of those I can't pick. But if I had to, it's, you know, if it's 1A, 1B, then it's Pat Riley and then Larry Brown.
Gotcha. Okay. And then first shot at coaching, what was the shot? What was your first call?
My first shot at coaching was, well, as an assistant coach, I got a job at Sacramento. Rick Adelman, who I think is one of the most underrated coaches that I've ever been around.
And sorry, you're how old at the time?
How old?
Assistant coach, yeah.
36.
36 years old.
Yeah,
you had
36.
Exited the league at age what?
35.
35. So
36. Matter of fact, I when I retired, I was 36, and when I got the job from Sacramento, it was probably 4 or 5 months later.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was just like that. I got right into coaching.
And then you were, again, the whole show is living life by design. I think, you know, a lot of people in the league they're so entrenched in the league, and then they're out of the league, and then it's like, now what?
Right.
Sounds like you had that pretty well planned out quite a few years prior to your retirement.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you feel like that was a major win for you, just having that anticipation, that vision of like, this is the next step for me?
Absolutely. I knew, when I was in Indiana, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew what life was after basketball as far as playing. I knew I wanted to get into coaching because of Pat Riley and what Larry Brown said.
Why is that the anomaly and not the norm?
That's a good question. Because I would think once you spend so much time playing this game and being involved in this game, you would love to just be involved in a different capacity.
Sure.
But a lot of guys want to get totally and completely away from the game as well. And I find that very hard to deal with because of the love that I have for the game of basketball. I never want to be that far away where I don't want to be involved in it whatsoever. I have way too much love for it. So to be disconnected from it, right when your career's over and just say, I don't want to have anything to do with it, it just boggles my mind. But it also tells me that you really didn't truly love the game, like I do.
You didn't say did, you say do.
Like
so
I do.
I love that.
I still love the game.
And then what do you bleed? Do you bleed purple and gold?
Without a doubt.
I love that. Okay, so we're in Sacramento. We're in Sacktown. You're an assistant coach. Then where do we go? Or how long were you there, and then what's the next pivot?
Yeah, I was in Sacramento for 2 years as an assistant coach. And then I went from there to New Jersey as a head coach. That was my first head coaching job, was New Jersey Nets.
Who did you replace with the Nets?
That's a good question. Was it Casey? Don Casey? I'm not sure who was the coach at that time. But that was my first coaching gig. Rod Thorne, who's the man who drafted Michael Jordan in Chicago, was hired as the president of basketball operations for New Jersey. So he brought me in and he hired me as my first head coaching job. Stayed in New Jersey for 5 years. Left New Jersey, went to New Orleans.
And that was Jason Kidd era.
That was
right?
Jason Kidd era. Kenya Martin, Richard Jefferson's, those guys. Left New Jersey, went to New Orleans, stayed in New Orleans for 5 years, and that was the Chris Paul. When we after my first year, we drafted Chris Paul.
Yep.
Had David West, signed Peja Stojakovic, traded for Tyson Chandler. Had a really good team in New Orleans. Then I stayed there for 5 years. Then I went to, or 6 years. Then I went to Cleveland and drafted Kyrie Irving, and stayed there for 3 years. And then to Los Angeles, where I got the opportunity and the pleasure of coaching a guy who I loved like a son, which was Kobe Bryant, for his last 2 years.
His last 2 years.
Yeah.
Were you one of the first ones to get the news when he passed?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think all of us remember where we were, how we were feeling the day that occurred. It was so surreal.
Yeah. We're getting dressed for church.
I was at church.
You were at church. Oh, wow. Yeah, we were going to the 10 o'clock service, and I'm sitting there in front of the TV watching the PGA tournament because I'm a big golf fan. And my wife is getting dressed, and all of a sudden she screams, oh, my God, and she says, Kobe just passed away. And I was like, nah, I'm not.
Same reaction.
And I grabbed my remote control, and I'm just going through the channels because I said, if that happened, it's going to be right on the news. I said, nope, I don't see nothing. But then my phone started ringing. So all my boys are calling me like, B, man, is it true? I said, man, I have no idea. I'll let you know when I find out something. And so I hung up the phone, and then I can't remember who it was who called my wife and confirmed it. And that, he was in a helicopter and he passed away, and Gigi was with him, along with 7 other people. It was like the girls' AAU team.
Sure.
And because reports at first was Rick Fox was with him. It was all these different reports. So when we got that, we were on our way because I said, no, we're going to church. We're going to church. And when we got the news that it was actually true and it happened, I turned around and came back home. And I stayed at home for 2 weeks. People were calling me, friends, family. The guy that really helped me get through it was George Lopez.
Really?
George called me and said, B, I know you're hurting. Come on, man, let's play golf. And I said, I'm not ready. So it took me another week or so, and then he called me back, and I said, okay. And it was the longest round of golf I've ever played in my life because every 3 holes we would stop, We would drink. We would talk about Kobe, because George was pretty close to him as well. So we would tell stories, and we would just let groups go in front of us. And I thanked him, because that meant a lot to me. That he was that he looked out for me and just called me and said, "B, I know you're hurting, but let's get out. Let's do something." And so that was extremely hard to deal with for me, because I remember the kid at 17 years old, and I remember how driven he was. I remember our talks on the back of the bus. I remember our talks at the beach. Just everything, So that hurt me to the core. And then to have Gigi there as well, and not just Gigi, but the other kids, that just hurt me to the core.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it was just surreal for you, surreal for me, surreal for the whole world. Like, the whole world was in shock.
Mourning, yeah.
And the whole world literally stopped.
Yeah.
I remember being in church service, and my wife, I think, was the first one in the congregation to get the message. Mm-hmm. And I had the same reaction. Nah, this isn't real.
Yeah,
it can't be.
Yeah.
And then bzz, 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 more and more people, and you could hear the chitter, the chatter, and we were all researching it, figuring out what's going on, and all of a sudden, tears, tears, and we all went home.
Yeah.
We're like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, we all got to go home.
Yeah. Yep.
So, how long were you at the Lakers as the head coach?
Just 2 years.
2 years.
Just those 2 years. Yeah.
Okay, and then after that.
After that, I really had like a bad taste in my mouth about the NBA. Especially coaching. I just didn't feel that I was treated fairly.
Okay.
With the Laker organization, who I love to death. So I had a bad taste. So I just was like, look, I'm gonna just kind of stay away from basketball for the next 3, 4, 5 years, whatever the case may be. But from afar, I still loved the game. I still went to games, and things like that. But the coaching part, I wouldn't say I lost my love for it or anything like that, but I just didn't want to deal with the politics of coaching.
Sure. Is it, and I don't know if you want to speak to this or not, but is it the NBA at large more so than the Lakers organization, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's the NBA at large.
NBA at large?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you view the current state of the NBA in comparison to potentially where it could be or should be?
Yeah, I mean, the NBA right now, the game is global. It's one of the biggest sports, in the history of sports right now. I think the game right now is in a good place. You got some great ambassadors, of the game. LeBron James, I think, has been fantastic. Stephen Curry has been fantastic. So I think the game is in a good place. It's hard for me as a purist to watch regular season games.
Sure.
Unless I just get a matchup that I really want to see. Because I don't think these guys play as hard. They don't love the game as much. It's all about me or all about money. It's the purest part of the game, I think, has been lost. So from that standpoint, it's hard for me to watch, a bunch of regular season games.
Yeah.
Obviously, I watch it when I'm working with Spectrum and James Worthy, because we have so much fun on stage. And, but as a norm, somebody will say, "Did you see that game last night?" No. For the most part, no. I see them when I'm working and when the playoffs start, because now I know guys are going to play as hard as they can every single night, and that's what I want to see.
Yeah, in previous conversations and interviews that I've done, it was an NFL interview, but the statement was these guys make so much money today that they're not willing to grit. They're not willing to grind. They have $100 million in their bank account.
Yeah,
they ain't gonna sacrifice their bodies. Mm-mm. So satisfied needs don't motivate.
Yeah, I mean, and not only that, now you have people giving them excuses not to play. You got load management, where I never heard of load management.
I was just going to ask you, when did that concept?
Yeah, we played every single game that but again, you got to go back to the eras. We played every game that we could possibly play.
Sure.
You wanted to play 82 games.
Sure.
These guys are already looking at contracts, and they're already saying, well, I'm going to get paid no matter what, so maybe I'll just play 60. So they're already cheating the fans. But you're getting paid.
Did you have to deal with that your last couple of years coaching?
I did not.
I was going to say.
Luckily.
Okay.
I did not.
And now it's just.
Oh, it's almost every team.
Yeah.
Now certain guys I can understand. You got a LeBron James at 39 years old that says I need a day off. Okay. You know, Kareem, back in our day, we went 2-a-day practices for training camp. Kareem never did 2-a-days. He did 1 practice a day, okay? 20 years in the league, I understand that, you know, but when you got guys 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years in the league talking about load management, get the hell out of here. That don't sit well with me.
Got it. Byron, looking at like your entire career, looking at your life, like it's incredible. Like it's, you know, if I were to write a book, like that'd be a pretty sick book, just writing about your life. Mm-hmm. Looking back, you know, your upbringing, you know, your pops at age 10, 12 saying you're going to be a basketball player. You looking back at where you are now, how does it, and it's a tough question because you're the one living it.
Living it, yeah.
But like, do you sometimes pinch yourself and like, how did this happen to me? Like, this is so cool. Like, I'm just so blessed. Like, do you ever have those moments?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you know, my statement when I sit down here, you say, "How you doing?" I'm blessed because I know it. I know this is, you know, everybody doesn't get this type of opportunity. You know, I'm a kid that grew up in Inglewood, California. You know, that pretty much migrated from Ogden, Utah. Yeah. And was able to fulfill a dream. You know, at 12 years old, I told my mom and dad I was going to be in the NBA. NBA. You know, I played in the NBA. And I told, you know, my boys, I said, I'm going to play at least 10 years. I played 14. You know, so almost everything that I confessed with my mouth, I was able to achieve. And that's all because of, you know, Jesus Christ. And I know that. You know, I know how blessed I am to be able to live this type of life, to be able to play the sport that I love, play the game that I love, play with unbelievable players, unbelievable people, have the relationships that I have today, you know, because of basketball. Basketball has taken me all over the world, you know, so you know, every time somebody asks me how I'm doing, I tell them that's the first thing I say, I'm blessed. You know, I wake up in the morning, I know it's a great day because first of all, I've waken up. You know, so today I'm going to spend that day making sure it's going to be the best day that I can possibly have. And that's how I look at life. You know, every time that I wake up, I'm going to enjoy this day. I'm going to enjoy it with my wife, my family, my friends, to the best of my ability. And then hopefully, you know, Lord willing, I wake up tomorrow to do it again. You know, and that's kind of how, at my age now, that's kind of how I view, you know, the world is that I'm going to just wake up and just enjoy the time that I have left here. You know, so yes, I know I'm blessed, tremendously blessed, and I don't take that for granted.
I love that. Yeah, be grateful for what you have before it becomes what you had, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just always give gratitude. I mean, just the mere fact that we're human beings is a miracle.
Yeah.
And that we're alive is just a fantastic miracle as well. So the last question to end the show, it's live life by design. I love asking this question to every single guest. But advice you would give folks watching that want to live their life more by design instead of by default. Just one final thought of guiding principles that you want to give on how you can live your life more on your terms and by design instead of just living it by happenstance or by default.
Yeah, I would say get a piece of paper and write down the 5 things that you want to accomplish in life. Store them somewhere, and then every morning that you wake up, you know, try to accomplish 1 or 5 of those things. You know, just try to accomplish those things. And then if you don't, you know, it's just like anything else. You fall down, you get up. You do it again the next day. You know, never have any quit in you. You know, I've never had quit in me. Anything that I start, I'm going to finish. You know, and then be humble. You know, you got to be humble. You said it a little while ago about being gracious as well, but you got to be humble. And you treat everybody the way you want them to treat you. That was, the 2 things that my mom told me when I was young. You know, one of them was treat everybody the way you want them to treat you. And the second one, when I signed my first deal with the NBA, and I took my mom to dinner. You know, and people are coming up and, you know, can we get an autograph? And I was like, I'm at dinner, and I was kind of feeling myself, you know. And my mom was like, you know, it sure is nice. You know, I was like, what are you talking about, Mom? She said, you know, it sure is nice to be important. I said, yeah, it is. She said, but it's more important to be nice. And that stuck with me, you know. So those, you know, that was the humility that she wanted me to have. And I'll never forget those 2 things. And I tell that to people to this day, no matter how successful you get, just remember to always be humble about it and be gracious.
And you are. So
I appreciate it.
Props to you for not only saying it, but being it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, brother.
That.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.